or prayer as you wish. As we are about to take counsel together on matters concerning this county, we should seek to faithfully discharge our duties of office, both in our debate and in our decisions, and promote the health, safety and well-being of those we serve. Thank you. Fellow councillors, officers and members of the public, including those listening via the webcast, and welcome to our youth representatives. Welcome everybody to our council meeting this evening. We are not expecting a fire drill, therefore in the event of a fire alarm, please leave the chamber by the nearest exit and assemble at the rear of the council car park. Before we get to the agenda, I'd also like to remind members to stand and ensure your microphone is switched on, and please speak clearly into it. When voting, please ensure your hand is fully raised and wait until voting is confirmed before lowering it. I was hoping to be able to say this evening that members may remove their jackets due to the searing summer heat, but given it's only about 15 degrees outside, and today is St Swithin's Day, believe it or not, so whether we've got another 40 days of this weather, who knows. And I was also hoping to say congratulations to the England team on their performance last night, but unfortunately I can't really say that either. So on to the agenda proper. First item is apologies.
Chairman, we've received apologies from Councillors Carr, Harvey and Wise this evening. Therefore, councillors voting to 24. Okay,
thank you, Mr Delaney. Chairman's announcements. Since the last ordinary meeting of council, I or the Vice Chairman have attended the following civic engagements: the D-Day beacon lighting at Cottesmore, Royal Anglian Regiment Freedom of Entry to Uppingham, D-Day service of commemoration, All Saints Church, Oakham, the Mayor of Peterborough's installation service, Peterborough Cathedral, the Armed Forces Day flag raising in the grounds of Oakham Castle, Oakham School Speech Day, and the High Sheriff's Osprey cruise at Rutland Water. Item 3, announcements from the Leader, members of the Cabinet or the Head of Paid Service. I'd now like to invite the Leader to address the Council. Councillor Waller.
Thank you. I've done a summary of my announcements which have been circulated to all members, as has Councillor Wise, who is unable to be here this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Waller. Councillors might wish to make sure their phones are turned off. If they're not, please turn them off. Do any other members of the Cabinet wish to speak? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think you may all know by now that the Ofsted report has been released into our children's services. It was embargoed until the Friday just gone because of the general election. I'm very pleased to say it was good in all 5 areas. Now, at the last inspection in 2020, it was rated as requiring improvement. So that it is now good is due to the hard work of all involved in children's services. You will all, I think, have seen the briefing note that has been circulated, but I hope you will read the full report, as it will become clear in that report as to why it is good. I would just like to pick out 1 or 2 comments. Confident leadership team, committed staff and good corporate and political response, skilled social workers. Children in Rutland receive effective and responsive help and protection. The excellent virtual school. And there are many such compliments. And that is why I encourage you to read the full report. But yes, there are suggestions for improvements, and I've no doubt these will be initiated. And on that, in view of the suggestions for improvements, we are looking at our strategy meetings to improve on the good work they do and further improve outcomes for our children. And that's what this report means. We provide a good service to our children. In particular, we're looking at the Corporate Parenting Board and the Children and Young People's Partnership. And I'll say a bit more about that actually when I come to the motion, Children's Partnership and the Youth Charter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and I'm sure we're all pleased with the outcome of the Ofsted report. I understand the Chief Executive has an announcement. Mr Andrews.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Smith, for your kind words. I'm extremely proud of the outcome of our Ofsted inspection, and thank you to all the families and staff who made it happen. I also wanted just to thank publicly all those who supported us to deliver a successful election. We're a small authority. We had 366 people working on the election. So also thank you to all those who continued the work back in the office to try to make services run. I'd particularly like to thank Carl Smith, the principal at Casterton College, for allowing us to use the college for the count venue. And in particular, his site manager, Steve Cook, who was a true inspiration. His can-do attitude really left an impression on all those involved. So thank you to everyone who played a role, including the candidates, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Andrews. Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? Nope. Item 5, minutes of the previous meetings. We have before us the minutes of the meetings held on the 25th of March, 18th of April and 20th of May. As a reminder, members should abstain from voting on minutes where they did not attend. I will move that the minutes of the 25th of March meeting be approved as an accurate record. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Powell. All those in favour?
I believe that's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So the minutes are therefore approved. I'll now move that the minutes of the 18th of April meeting be approved as an accurate record. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Powell again. All those in favour?
23, Chairman.
All those against? Abstentions? Councillor Ross.
That's carried, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So those minutes are approved. I'll now move that the minutes of the annual council meeting be approved as an accurate record. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smith. All those in favour of the annual council minutes being approved, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So those minutes are therefore approved. Item 6, petitions, deputations and questions from members of the public. None have been received.
None received, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr Delaney. Item 7, questions from members of the council. 8 questions have been received from members in accordance with the procedure rules, and they will be taken in order. There is a maximum of 30 minutes for consideration of questions. Supplementary questions must be related to or arise from the original question and not just be a statement. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. As there are 8 questions, in the public interest of hearing the answers to these questions, could I propose that we amend standing orders, that we're not limited to 30 minutes and we can get over that time if necessary?
Do we have a...
Suspend, sorry.
Suspend, not amend.
Yes,
Yes.
apologies.
Yeah. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hemsley. All those in favour?
I believe that's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, standing orders are suspended and not amended. So the first question is Councillor Carr. As Councillor Carr is unable to be with us tonight, I think Councillor Waller, you're prepared to respond outside of the meeting. Okay. Councillor Powell, you're second on the list.
Thank you. At the special council meeting in January, it was promised that a Section 19 investigation would be carried out on the flooding which affected so many residents across the county last winter. The Members' Scrutiny Task and Finish Group, which was also set up, brought its initial report to the Scrutiny Committee last week and plans to finalise its recommendations by September. Please can the portfolio holder advise if this Section 19 investigation has now commenced and when it is expected to be concluded? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. As Councillor Wise is not here, Councillor Johnson is going to step into her shoes, I believe, and answer the questions. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. We have commissioned an external organisation who are currently preparing the key baseline information and developing the scope of investigation to ensure it is effective and complies with RCC's objectives of fully understanding the causes of the flooding events of storms Babette and Henk. This phase is due for completion by the end of July. During August, we will appoint further expertise to carry out the ground investigation work involving detailed studies of geology and topography. The final report is on track to be completed within the 12 months originally envisaged following the last event in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Powell, do you have a supplementary?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corby. And again, Councillor Wise is not here, so Councillor Johnson will answer your question.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Johnson. Following the contract extension agreed with Biffa for waste disposal over the next 4 years, in which it was agreed that Biffa would procure and receive the new vehicles on behalf of Rutland County Council, was it also agreed that the vehicles would only contain Biffa branding?
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. No, it was arranged that the new vehicles have graphics on the cab doors showing the RCC and Biffa logos, along with the text, "Proud to be working in partnership." I can arrange to send councillors a copy of a photograph showing the joint branding on one of our waste vehicles, if that would be of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Corby, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, yeah, my supplementary would be, are we receiving any income for the Biffa branding?
Councillor Johnson.
I don't believe so, Chairman, but I can find out and be precise. I'm getting a shaking of the head from Mr. Andrews.
Okay, maybe we can clarify that situation outside the meeting. Councillor Beggy, and again, your question was submitted to Councillor Wise, so Councillor Johnson will answer.
Thank you, Chair. I've been privileged to attend a number of annual parish meetings recently. One theme was common: speeding in HGVs in villages. Thistleton, Stretton and Greetham have all put plans forward to address these, and many promises have been made. Last night I tracked the Thistleton plan back to 2017. Stretton has had issues on the road to the prison, which they've been asking for a number of years, and Greetham's request to curb HGVs, enforce speed limits and much more. There are also numerous outstanding requests for road repairs and requests to stop the isolation of Stretton, Clipsham and Thistleton with cycle paths. The lists are all well documented and I'm sure not uncommon. Indeed, I have formed a North Rutland Highways group so the villages can fight as one to try and get their voice heard, as we did with the quarries. However, I am fully aware of the issues of highways, but this is not new. Can I ask what the portfolio holder is doing differently to fix this position, and when will we hope to see a resolution? Many of these issues need action now, and certainly the north of the county feel very ignored.
Thank you, Councillor Beggy. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. There are well-established 7.5 tonne weight limits across the county that have been in place for a number of years, which are enforced by the police. These include Thistleton and Stretton. Greetham is on the B668, which is a classified route to which HGVs are permitted, and this is a route we would not look to restrict given the impact on other villages on unclassified roads and the additional detours that the Road Haulage Association would not support. With regards to speeding, the speed indication devices are currently being replaced over a phased period on a rolling programme. These new devices also capture number plate details and speeds of vehicles. The SIDs for Greetham, Thistleton and Stretton are due to be upgraded in 2025. We encourage villages to take up community speedwatch schemes to provide data and also to help with the visual deterrent within communities. The police enforce speeding. With regards to road repairs, we have an ongoing programme of works as well as a routine safety with regard to road repairs, we have an ongoing programme of works as well as routine safety inspections that are carried out throughout the year.
Councillor Johnson, do you have a supplementary?
I do, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's useful information, much of which I already knew. But unfortunately, it doesn't answer the question. What I asked was, what is the resolution to the issues within highways as far as resourcing, and what is being done differently to fix it?
Councillor Johnson.
I'll have to find out that for you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Farina, can you ask your question as submitted to Councillor Ellison, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Across Rutland, residents of one of our largest housing association providers have seen huge increase in service charges for services that are not provided or are properly provided. The conditions in some buildings create possible environmental and health and safety issues due to lack of maintenance and cleanliness. As the problem is widespread and affects many Rutland residents, I would like to know, please, what action is being taken by the portfolio holder and officers to address these issues and also benchmark the price being charged for services poorly provided.
Thank you, Councillor Farina. Councillor Ellison.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Farina. It's a very interesting area and it's something we're involved in. We have had an increased number of complaints from residents of housing associations due to their increase in service charges. But it has been accepted that costs have increased, particularly the cost of living in relation to energy suppliers. However, one of our suppliers of housing associations hasn't dealt with it very well. Their communication has been quite poor. So we need to look at housing associations in general, but as we're all aware, we do not own the social housing in Rutland. It was all transferred in 2009, so we have no direct control or power over how they manage their maintenance and their accommodation supply. So we have an arm's length relationship with them, and we need to make the most of that. This has been brought to JLT. It's been discussed in great detail. An action plan has been put in place. The chair of the leader of the council has emailed every member asking for any details of this to be sent to me. I'm keeping a log of what's happening. We are talking to the housing associations and we're asking them what they're doing about it. But we do have that arm's length relationship with them. We can't tell them they have to improve. It's a difficult, quite political, the small p situation to be in. So we've actually recommended it comes to scrutiny, and that has been timetabled for September to look at an evidence-based gathering of what's happening with housing associations. And our chief exec also meets with the chief exec of the largest housing association, and we're working it from that side as well. So unfortunately, I can't say we have a magic wand of how to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellison. You mentioned the JLT. Can you just explain what that is, please, for people that might not know?
I do apologise. The Joint Leadership Team, which meets with officers and councillors on Cabinet.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Farina, do you have a supplementary?
No supplementary.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hemsley, can you ask your question as submitted to Councillor Waller, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. As said, I'd like to address this question to the leader of Rutland County Council. We know that we're on a transformation journey. We also realise that some of the changes will have impacts on the staff. The need for the council to be able to work within shrinking budget is also understood. But as the elected representatives of this council in our communities, we would appreciate being informed of the progress of the transformation work. And I'm asking that we have an update on this work, and are we on target or are we needing to accelerate the work? This is particularly of concern as we appear to be holding some posts unfilled, which may be key to ensuring we spend wisely on the journey of transformation. We're hearing that there is a pressure, and this is being used as the reason for delays in delivering services. As elected members, if we have the facts, we can support the officers when speaking to our residents. So please, can we have an update, either written or via briefing? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hemsley. Councillor Waller, I understand you have got a bad back, so if you wish to remain seated, then please do.
I think I'd rather stand up. It stretches the back, actually. But thank you very much for your concern, Chairman. Cabinet considered the 2023-24 financial outturn report at their meeting in June. And of course, this report is on RCC's website. It's a public report. This report references progress being made on transformational activity, as well as references made to holding vacancies to aid transformation and planned savings. This document provides an overview of the progress being made alongside the budget pressures that are being managed and the approach to mitigate the increasing risk profile the Council is exposed to. The quarterly finance performance reports for 24-25 will include reporting against the budget savings and therefore provide an indication of progress of the Council's transformational journey and savings delivery. The Council is able to take this approach as the transformation programme has been embedded within the Council as business as usual, with a range of programme boards in place to oversee this work. Overall, we continue to make good progress. Examples include the continued development of the Communities Programme, the Health and Care Collaborative, and the rollout of new technology and self-serve functions to make us more efficient, including, getting a bit technical now, Microsoft 365, a new intranet, and Power BI. And for those of you who don't know, Power BI is a piece of software that helps us with performance monitoring. As these activities are embedded in service delivery, updates on these projects are provided regularly through the members' briefing. And I would encourage everybody to read the regular members' briefing because it does contain some useful information. Thank you.
Councillor Waller, Councillor Hemsley, do you have a supplementary?
I do. I appreciate that a lot of the information we receive is in forms of reports and things, but an open dialogue between Cabinet and the other councillors would actually be really useful, because I think we'd have a better understanding both ways. So I would encourage an informal conversation on this at some point. Thank you.
Councillor Hemsley. Councillor Harvey is not here tonight, so maybe Councillor Waller, you'll be able to respond outside of the meeting in a similar way to Councillor Carr. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I note with the minutes of the March meeting, item 19, Catmus Sports Contract, exempt annex to the minutes, is deemed to be such because by virtue of paragraph 3, it contains information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Could the leader confirm that once all the necessary legalities have been concluded, these minutes, including the recorded vote, will be published in the public domain? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Waller.
The determination of whether information is exempt is not a matter for myself or the Cabinet, and is defined as a decision to be made by the Chief Executive as set out in the Access to Information Procedure Rules of our Constitution in accordance with Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. And therefore, I'm not in a position to give you an assurance one way or the other. However, I am assured by the Chief Executive that this information will be released once negotiations have concluded. And I would draw attention to the fact that at the time of the debate, the Chief Executive did assure us that was going to be the case.
Councillor Waller. Councillor Stevenson, any supplementary question?
Any idea of the timescale, Leader?
No, I haven't. I hope that we will be able to early September, but it is a hope, because you will appreciate that we have a number of bodies we are negotiating with, and some of those are, they're all progressing at the state we would expect. Some of those are a lot further forward than others, but until the entirety is complete, I'm told that the information can't be released. If it proves to be protracted beyond early September, I will include a statement in my update to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Waller. That concludes the questions. Item 8, referral of committee decisions to the Council. There are no referrals for consideration this evening. Item 9, call-in of decisions from Cabinet meetings during the period from 25th of March to 15th of July. There are no call-ins for consideration. 10, report from Cabinet. No reports from Cabinet this evening. 11, reports from committees of the Council. There are none. 12, reports from scrutiny. Again, there are no reports from scrutiny this evening. Item 13, joint arrangements and external organisations. A number of reports have been received, and these will be taken in the order that they were received. And as Councillor Wise is not here and has given her apologies, I'll take her 4 reports as received and noted. Councillor Waller, do you wish to speak to any of your reports?
I do not wish to speak to any of my reports. I think they are clear.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take the reports as... Councillor Stevenson.
Is it possible to have a question to take
Can
away?
you stand, please?
Oh, thank you, Chair. I do apologise. Is it possible to just ask a question about the transport for the East Midlands report to Council?
Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate it won't be answered this evening, but answer. Obviously, reading that, I was very concerned to see that funding potentially had been cancelled. So I actually raised that with our MP, because clearly that's out of our jurisdiction. We have obviously had the 5 safety upgrades, and we know that the MP has been busy lobbying. So therefore, I was very surprised that the MP was unaware of any cancellation of funding, and she is unaware of any record of that, and she thinks it should have been announced in Parliament. So could we please get clarification that that is actually the case? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Waller.
I think there may be some misunderstanding as to what the funding on the A1 is. The funding you're referring to is minor, well, Highways England would consider minor works to improve safety. What was originally in their budget some few years ago now was major upgrades to make the part of the A1 that runs through Rutland and up to Grantham the same standard as the A1 beyond that, in basically motorway standard. But that money was withdrawn by the government from now National Highways funding, and it's that major work that Transport for the East Midlands is lobbying to be reinstated, as it were. Of course, with the new government now, who's to say that, you know, even National Highways will continue to exist in the future? I mean, everything's up in the air, as we all know. But that was the situation at the point of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Waller. Any other questions on the reports from members? Okay, Councillor Harvey is not here, so we'll take her report as received and noted. And if there are any questions, obviously they'll have to be directed to Councillor Harvey outside the meeting. Item 14 is notices of motion. We have 2 this evening. These will be taken in order. Item 14A, sewage discharge, pages 25 to 26 of your pack. Councillor McRobb, can you please introduce and propose your motion, including the alteration?
Thank you, Chair. I believe I need to introduce the alteration as an amendment. Do I do that now or at the end of my introduction? I don't need to.
No, because if your seconder, should you get one, will agree, then we can go ahead.
Okay, thank you then. This motion, those of you who've read the pack will already understand, is about sewage discharges in Rutland. And briefly, 2023 we now know was the worst year on record in England for raw sewage discharges, an increase on 2022 of a staggering 105%. Rutland alone saw a total of 298 discharges. From Oakham, Nossington and Cottesmore, we saw 133 spills that together would be a continuous equivalent of over 5 weeks of raw sewage spills, which I'm sure everyone would agree is completely unacceptable. The immediate effects are bad enough, but there are also long-term consequences, some of them known, some of them unknown. Reduced oxygen levels harm almost all benign aquatic life, fish, invertebrates, you name it. Sewage fungus concentrates heavy metal ions into the food chain. Consequences at present unknown, but probably not good. Even treated sewage can carry E. coli and other parasitic organisms. And we know that waterborne disease hospitalisations in England are up 60% between 2010 and 2023. Did any of us expect dysentery and typhoid in 21st century England? In context, many weather records were broken last year, particularly storm severity, but this alone can't explain the increase. Water companies are required to plan for climate change, not just react to events when they happen. According to the law on this, discharge of sewage is permitted in, quote, exceptional circumstances, but it now appears to be a normal operation. In an essay that he kindly shared with me, our own councillor Andrew Brown, the chair of this meeting, noted that even huge fines have proved no incentive to control the spills because they're dwarfed by the shareholder dividends and the profitability of the companies. One judge in a recent case said, I quote, "There was a disregard of the law from the top down," unquote. I think that's shocking. I hope you agree. The majority of discharges in Rutland are by Anglian Water, with Severn Trent also in the picture for a minority. They're responsible for the discharges, but we as a council are responsible for the health and well-being of our residents and our visitors. Maybe the new government at Westminster will bring a new approach. We don't know that yet. In the meantime, I believe it would be irresponsible for us not to communicate our concerns to those water companies and exert what pressure we can to bring early improvements to this situation. The motion therefore calls on the leader to write on behalf of this council to the chief executives of Anglian Water and Severn Trent Water Authority, calling for details of 1, why last year was the worst on record for sewage discharge, 2, what is being done now to reduce the incidence of sewage spills and when improvements will be completed, and 3, a date when live data will be published by the water companies, giving residents the benefit of real-time spill information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McRobb. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ross. As seconder, can you confirm your consent to the alteration, please?
I confirm my consent to the alteration, including Severn Trent Water, in the motion as put to the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The motion is there in front of us, councillors. Now open to debate. Members. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think we're all agreed that having clean, decent waterways absolutely is essential. And I think it's really important to note that until 2015, only 6% of our waterways were regularly monitored. It is now 100%, so we actually know where we are. I think it's also important to note that, and obviously it was referenced in the papers, and thank you very much for their depth, about the 1980s. In 2009, the EU took action on our government, and in fact fines were incurred as a result of that previous government's actions in 2012. I'm sure members are all aware of the Environment Act in 2021, certainly from the perspective of waste collections in this county. What concerns me with this motion, it is misleading to our residents because it is asking for things that are already mandated by law. It is already mandated in Part 5, Chapter 4, regarding having plans to improve, plans to publicly share data, and those are already being done. So at this current point, and I will listen to what other members have to say, I think it is a misleading motion because it suggests that those things that you ask for are not already in place, and I believe that they are. You may well wish to disabuse me of that impression when you sum up. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Stevenson. Other members? Councillor Heckles.
Sorry, hi. One of the sites is obviously in my ward, so I've done a little bit of research this afternoon. I do find sort of some of these statements slightly alarming and even quite close to scaremongering. I do feel that we should offer our residents some sort of reassurances that the water at Rutland Water is safe. I would remind you all that we've actually been awarded a blue flag for swimming, and I think they also have a green flag as well. The water is actually tested weekly by Anglian Water, and then there are actually 16 random spot checks by the Environment Agency to make sure it's absolutely safe for our residents. I actually did a fascinating tour of Anglian Water's wastewater treatment, along with Councillor Brown and Councillor Ross. We saw where the sewage comes into the treatment centre, where they remove rag, which is solid sort of sanitary items and foreign objects, which are collected and sent to the tip. The sewage then goes through a number of treatments where all the effluents are removed, and it's eventually pumped to the Wing Water Treatment Centre. I'm not trying to absolve any of the water companies. However, when there is heavy rains, they do find it necessary to use the storm drains, where again effluent is gathered in the middle, and then on occasion liquid is released. However, this isn't raw sewage, it's actually very diluted by this stage. In the case particularly of Anglian Water, I understand it's released into the reed beds, which actually act as a natural filtration. I can't comment on what Severn Trent do because I haven't seen their facilities. I just wanted to emphasise the need to ensure that part of the process we also consider our planning, so that when we build houses, we ensure that none of the rainwater is actually allowed to go into the sewage system, because it puts too much pressure on the treatment centres, particularly when it rains heavily. If you'd like to look at any of the information on swimming, there's a website called Swim Info, where they actually check the water standards. Again, spill alerts are available on Anglian Water website. I think you can just Google Anglian Water storm overflows, and it's already live and active and running. So, and this, sorry, the Swim Info actually check the water quality, as I said. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heckles. Other members? Councillor West.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies, I ought to have come to you earlier this week with a very small amendment to this, but I didn't. Time got the better of me. Members, I'm contemplating just adding something to this by way of amendment to suggest that one of the main issues here is the fact that Ofwat does not have very sharp teeth as a regulatory body when it comes to imposing fines on the water companies. So I would like to add in an additional question at the end of your motion to ask what what proposals the government has to increase Ofwat's power in their ability to impose larger fines. Am I able to do that, Angela? Having a seconder. Yeah, that'd be good. Does anybody fancy seconding that, members? Wonderful.
So seconded by Councillor Lambert. Mr. Delaney.
Can I just clarify the exact wording, Councillor West?
Yeah. What plans does the government have to increase Ofwat's powers to impose larger fines?
Yes, the motion is to the chief. The letter's going to the chief executive of Anglian Water and not to the government.
I thought it was up to the government. Sorry. Oh well, he's got no.
No.
No, well, I forget that then. No, he's not. He won't be interested.
Are you withdrawing your,
I'll withdraw my
amendment,
amendment.
Councillor West?
Yeah.
Okay, that amendment is therefore withdrawn.
So yes, speaking more widely then, one of the main issues is that Ofwat does not have very sharp teeth to impose fines on water companies in this area. That is a big problem. Anglian Water are a little behind other water company providers. Severn Trent are a lot further ahead in terms of covering their lagoons. So obviously heavy rainfall will flood the lagoons, and the lagoons are there to treat and flocculate the sewage sludge, and if that is going to overflow, it risks undoing all of the work if they just flood. So they have to discharge to keep the level at the right point. So if we can cover those lagoons, that is a big thing. Anglian Water are a little behind on that. So Thames Water for that matter. Yeah, other than that, I'd be happy to support the motion. Councillor.
Councillor West, other members, yes, Councillor Edwards.
Possibly just, I don't know why I completely agree with writing this letter, but why are we only writing it to Anglian Water and not also to Severn Trent? Is there a reason for one and not the other?
The addition was to add Severn Trent to it.
Oh, that's been added. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, missed.
Any other members? Councillor Hemsley and then Councillor Ross.
Thank you very much. I know it's great writing to these people and having our thoughts put in black and white so we can point to them at a later date, but I would also thoroughly encourage, and some people have obviously been to see the facilities, actually a conversation with the CEO or the relevant parties so we actually can inform each other in a better way and take away something that is more meaningful, which we can then share with our residents.
Councillor Hemsley, Councillor Ross.
Could I just clarify a couple of points on the water treatment plant and also the existence of mixed drainage, which we have in the council in this county, and those both contribute to the risk of discharges. And as Councillor Heckles pointed out, it is the case that at least two of our water treatment works are operating at or close to capacity. It's just a point of clarification. And then to pick up on the point that Councillor Helmsley said, I think there is a lot to be said for engaging with the Chief Executive of Severn Trent to understand what the capital expenditure plans actually are for the next 5 years, which they offered to do. And I think that it's important that we understand as a council what these plans are and how they will individually impact upon residents within our respective constituencies. And I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other members? In that case, Councillor McRobb, would you like to... So were you indicating there, Councillor Waller? No. Okay. Councillor McRobb, would you like to sum up, please?
Can I use my summing up to respond in part to points that were made during the debate?
I think that is sort of the idea.
Okay, good. I'm new to this. I would like particularly to respond to what Councillor Stevenson said about the Environment Act and the position of water companies in relation to legislation. I don't regard what legislation mandates the water companies to do in the form of producing plans. I don't regard that as action by the water companies. And what I regard as action by the water companies is what we have seen tangible evidence of over the last year. The Environment Act has now been in place for 3 years. We're 3 years down the line, we're still suffering these problems. So I don't think that's a reason not to write to these chief executives and call on them, adding to the pressure to take action. I'd also just comment on a more general point that although there is now, in theory, in legislation, a better regime of monitoring of quality and routine inspections, I would just point out that the Environment Agency, ultimately responsible for most of that, has had its budget slashed in real terms by about 40% over roughly the last decade. And they simply don't have the workforce to effectively carry out all the monitoring that we would require them to do or expect them to do. So I don't see any reason to soften the call of the motion. And in summary, I would call on members to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McRobb. So Council is asked to approve the motion as set out on page 26 of the agenda as altered in the agenda supplement. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
I believe that's 19, Chair.
Okay, all those against, please raise your hand. And all those who wish to abstain, please raise your hands.
5, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The motion is therefore approved. Item 14B is Rutland Fair Trade. Councillor Corby, can you please introduce and propose your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Those of you aware, I work with the Fair Trade locally. This year is going to be the renewal status. So if I may, I'll give members an overview. I'm going to be brief. If anybody's got any questions further, by all means, ask me at any time. Fair Trade is a trading partnership based on dialogue, transparency and respect that seeks greater equity in international trade. It contributes to sustainable development by offering better trading conditions to and securing the rights of marginalised producers and workers. Fair trade standards ensure fairer terms of trade between farmers and buyers and protect workers' rights. Forced labour and child labour are prohibited in the fair trade standards and provide the framework for producers to build thriving farms and organisations. The key objectives of fair trade standards are to ensure that producers receive prices that cover their average costs of sustainable production, to provide an additional fair trade premium which can be invested in projects that enhance social, economic and environmental development, to also enable pre-financing for producers who require it, to facilitate long-term trading partnerships and enable greater producer control over the trading process, and to set clear core and development criteria to ensure that the conditions of production and trade of all fair trade certified products are both socially and economically fair as well as environmentally responsible. This year, as I've said, Rutland Fair Trade are applying for renewal of its fair trade status through a small but dedicated committee of fair trade supporters, very ably led by David Lewis. They meet several times a year, and their primary aim is to increase the promotion and use of fair trade products in Rutland. Each year, they organise a Christmas market, and last year we were grateful to our leader, Councillor Waller, for attending and opening the market, which once again was a resounding success and which has already been planned for later this year. There are other multiple fair trade events held around the country every year, organised through the Fair Trade Foundation, and this year has seen the Big Green Week, working to raise awareness and action on climate change, This year will also see the 30th Fair Trade Fortnight held between the 9th and 24th of September, which is an annual campaign also just to raise awareness of fair trade products. Rutland is proud of its fair trade status, and in recognition of that, I therefore propose the following motion, which would supersede the last motion of 2019 as follows. In recognition of Rutland's fair trade status, the Council wishes to encourage contractors, suppliers and service providers engaged with work for the Council to show a commitment to fair trade and to consider fair trade products where possible within our own procurement processes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Corby. The seconder. Councillor Powell. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Powell? No. So therefore it's open to debate. Members. Yes, Councillor Zonningball.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think that is a very good motion, even though this is already in place. I think just to bring the public awareness of this out will be very beneficial. So I'm very much in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zonningball. Any other members? Councillor McRobb.
I just wanted the opportunity to make an uncharacteristically short statement. I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McRobb. Any other members? Yes, Councillor Ray Payne.
This time I do want to speak, Chair. Thank you, rather than frightening me like you did last time. I just want to say this, is something that I've been active in myself over the years. I like fair trade. I like the concept of fair trade. I can't think of any reason why this council wouldn't support this motion.
Councillor Payne. Any other members? Yes, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And also David Lewis, absolutely fantastic how he's driven that. Just as a general point, it is an interesting one with fair trade when we're thinking about child labour, etc. And I urge us when we're thinking about environmental issues where we are sourcing the products to enable those things to happen. But most certainly I support this motion 150%.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Is it possible to support something more than 100%? No, I did. Any other members? In that case, Councillor Corby, if you'd like to sum up, if you wish. Okay, in that case, the Council is asked to approve the motion as set out on page 26 of the agenda. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, the motion is approved. Item 15, Children's Participation Approach and Youth Charter. This is report number 73, 2024. As part of this item, we will be hearing from two representatives of youth participation groups. After the item has been moved and seconded, Councillor Smith, can you then first introduce the report and propose the motion?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would very much like to propose this motion. The recommendation is the Council approves a set of guiding principles that will form the foundation of relationships between decision makers and Rutland children and young people participating groups as set out in the Participation Approach and Youth Charter to improve participation of young people in decision making across the Council. In this recommendation, one word stood out to me, and that was tokenistic. In our strategy meetings and motions, it's easy to come up with fine words and idealistic goals and tell ourselves, job done. The youth participation groups, of which there were 3 in this charter, are quite clearly telling us that they would like a reset in relationships with council decision makers. And they want action. A shared vision, genuine and influential participation. You have before you the Rutland Youth Charter. Now, I don't need to elaborate on it. It's concise and clear in its aims. Rather, I would like to give an example of how the words and ideas in this charter can be put into action. Now, I mentioned earlier that Children's Services plan to improve on the good work of the corporate parenting body. In the 3 or 4 meetings I have chaired, only one young person has attended, and we need to make it more relevant for them. And to that end, we have formed a working group, and it is met to look at ways it can be made more relevant to young people. For a start, what seems obvious, we're going to ask them a questionnaire. We have Luke Rogers, who is a prominent advocate for care leavers, and we planned a meeting at which he will speak and ask the ideas from young people of what they would like. Possible changes that we can make to our corporate parenting board are young people to be involved in the agenda. Perhaps they could start the meeting. Perhaps they could chair some of the meetings. We could have themed meetings around health, housing, finance, employment. After all, it's their health and their future. In the Charter, it mentions, as an example, shadowing members for insight into how decisions are made. It's quite a good idea. But I think we also have a wealth of life experience within members here. For example, in business and finance. And perhaps we could use some of the members in our meetings to help our young people. But above all, we need to make sure that our actions are carried out. In a similar way, Children's Services is looking at the Children and Young People's Partnership. But I will let the Charter have the last say. Space. A safe space to express their views. Voice. Supported so that their voice is heard. Audience. That their voice is listened to. Influence. To have their views acted upon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Waller. At this point, I was going to invite our young people to come to the seats opposite, but I see they're so keen to talk to us that they've already taken up their seats. Lucy, I think, is going to speak to us first. So over to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Chairman. It is crucial that young people are actively involved in decision-making processes because we are directly affected by the policies and decisions made today. As the future inheritors of our country, it is essential for us to have a say in shaping it, rather than being unprepared and unaware of how to manage it in the future. I recently had the opportunity to visit Parliament with the National Children's Bureau to discuss the importance of including young people in decision-making. During this visit, we met with MPs throughout the day, sharing our views on why it is vital for young people to be part of decisions that impact us. The experience was empowering. The MPs genuinely listened to us and engaged in meaningful conversations, which made me feel that my voice mattered and that I was making a difference. However, despite the positive interactions on that day, it was disheartening to see that no substantial actions followed our discussions. This lack of follow-through highlights the need for consistent and genuine commitment to involving young people in decision-making beyond just listening to us during special events. In another instance, when I was 9 years old, I delivered a speech to 200 aquarium curators from around Europe and the environmental ambassador for the EU. My speech led to significant action. Every aquarium across Europe took a plastic pledge. This experience was incredibly rewarding, as it showed that my voice could lead to real change. If young people across the UK could regularly feel that their ideas are heard and acted upon, it would greatly enhance their sense of agency and contribution to society. As a member of the Rutland Youth Council, I've had the opportunity to share my views and influence my local community on behalf of myself and other young people. This role allows me to shape the environment where I live and encourage other young people to become active citizens. It is important for young people to be seen and valued as equals, rather than being dismissed due to our age. I'll now hand over to Emily.
Thank you. And yes, so next we've got Emily.
I am Emily and I am part of the Rutland Disabled Youth Forum. We are a group of young people with SEND who try to get our voices heard. We meet monthly at the Family Hub. This is our safe place to share our views as we feel comfortable there and have some support. When people listen to us, it makes us feel heard, important and part of the community. When things are changed in the community, that we said were important, it makes us feel that we have accomplished our goal of making things better for all children and young people with SEND. As you well know, a few years ago, McDonald's arrived in Rutland. We joined one of their consultation meetings, which they arranged especially for us. They brought some easy to understand plans for us to look at and explained how the building would be accessible. We felt they really listened to our voices. One of our members at the time was a wheelchair user, and she noticed that the disabled parking would not work for her vehicle and was unsafe. She also noticed that there was no wheelchair spaces at the outside seating area. We knew we were talking to the right audience as the McDonald's team committed to changing their plans. We influenced change, which is making the McDonald's restaurant safe and accessible for all. We continue to be very proud of this achievement. I'll now hand over to Lucy.
Thank you, Emily. And now back to Lucy.
Our involvement must not be tokenistic, as said. It needs to have a real impact. We often get involved because we are passionate about making our communities, like Rutland, better places to live and grow up in. When our participation is genuine and leads to concrete actions, it not only benefits our communities, but also empowers us as young individuals. In conclusion, involving young people in decision-making is essential for creating a better future. It ensures that our perspectives are included, and it prepares us to take on future responsibilities with confidence and knowledge. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for coming to speak to us tonight. And as set out in the papers, this is a foundation of relationships between decision makers and you as some of the main youth participation groups in Rutland. And I think I can speak on behalf of all members to say your speeches were both eloquent and articulate. And perhaps members would like to join me in thanking the two young people for coming to talk to us tonight. So thank you, and if you'd like to remain where you are or go back to your seats, that's entirely up to you. Members, that means we're open to debate. So members, yes, Councillor Beggy.
Thank you. I've been writing feverish notes and rewritten this a few times, so just bear with me a little bit. I think my first question is, how do we better ensure that we include the hard-to-reach groups? Those that are unaware of the opportunities, those that are more ambivalent because they're unaware of the opportunities, or those in harder to reach settings such as our private schools or educated out of county. And the second part of my question is, how do we involve these young people more in our day-to-day dealings? For example, youth participation in scrutiny. I'm very aware as currently we have adults invited to comment on the educational aspects of scrutiny, whereas surely we should have a youth participant in order to get their views across. Thank you.
Councillor Beggy. Other members? Councillor Hemsley.
Thank you very much, Chair. When I was leader, we did look at actually going and exploring what Rutland was like from somebody in a wheelchair, for instance. And actually, it's quite clear that we don't really understand some of the issues that people face. People who've got poor sight and things, we take it for granted. But actually exploring the county from different viewpoints would be very good. What I would just like to suggest is, and maybe this can be taken through the Constitution Working Review Group, is that we actually look at being able to have a slot on council meetings for the youth to come along, raise points, and maybe not every time, but just so they have an open access to all of us. And I would love to come and spend some time with any of you and understand your problems better. So if you ever want to talk to me, please feel free.
Thank you, Councillor Hemsley. Councillor Waller.
Thank you. I'd like, in part, please, to respond to Councillor Beggy. When I first became a councillor, I chaired the then Children's Scrutiny Panel. In those days, we had different scrutiny panels to deal with different areas of activity. And we did, over time, actually have 2 members of Rutland's young people, 2 representatives, as of right, sitting on that scrutiny panel, voted there by their colleagues in the Youth Council. But of course, time moves on. Those individuals literally moved on and became adults. But also we reorganised our scrutiny committee processes. And it didn't necessarily follow through that we included young people, which was inevitable, I think, but also only having them on the young people on children's panel was also, in some ways, tokenistic, but more importantly, meant that we missed their voice on a lot of the issues that were important to young people and still are, like environment, because that was dealt with by a different panel. You know, like the resources that we put into facilities for young people. Of course, that was dealt with by a different panel. And young people, if we're going to do anything at all for them, and I think this is a brilliant first step, we need to be aware that their interests are broader than simply what they're going to do themselves here and now. They, like us, are part of a wider family network, a wider friends network. And the young people will have interest in all sorts of things that we might not consider. So I think it was under Councillor Stevens' guidance, young people were involved in looking at food waste a couple of years ago. And we got some really interesting responses from them. And I think that's helped shape the thinking of a number of us who were around in those days. And I would like to thank all those young people who were involved in that piece of work, and Councillor Stevenson for leading it as well. And as I said, I'm going to sit down in a moment. As I said, this is a first step. We're not going to climb Everest. We have to do it in stages. But I would encourage everybody to support this recommendation.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you ever so much for an excellent presentation, absolutely brilliant. Reading this, it's really, really good to read, and it absolutely hits the nail on the head. Obviously, I'm now a middle-aged woman, so that could put fear into you there. One comment I would make is that actually that engagement, getting people young to realise, and I think your point about being listened to and seeing tangible actions is so important, because actually we need to get our adults in Rutland engaged as well. And I think we may well actually be learning a lot from your enthusiasm from this type of charter, because actually when you have only 126 adults responding to a fairly big budget that impacts their income, we need to reflect on that. So I think, as well as making sure that we properly listen and act on young people's voices, we are all also in a position of learning from you, and hopefully we will also see that as adults getting engaged and really seeing an impact from that engagement. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Wilby.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I say what an excellent paper you produced on the whole thing. I thought it was really well written, and it covered all the bases. And whilst I'm up, can I just add my congratulations to your team, Dawn, for all the excellent hard work that they've done to get the children's services back on easy track. I'd like to support Councillor Beggie's initial thrust there, because I think moving our meetings is really important, because some of the times when we've wanted to get the representatives from the younger folks groups, it's been quite difficult to get them there because of school times or our council times and things like that. I think we need to think very hard about how we best allow these things to happen. Maybe, and it's something I thought of last night, maybe we hold them at the different schools like Casterton, like Uppingham, and here at Catmos, just to give them all a chance to get easier access to the councils. And I'm sure those relevant parts of the council can move their meetings to those places if necessary and adjust the times to make sure it happens. But really good presentation tonight, and I totally am behind the thrust of your paper, and let's hope we can make it run.
Thank you, Councillor Wilby. Any other members? Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Farina.
Just to say, really well done. As a school teacher, I've seen student-led councils very, very similar to this. Just take it and run with it. You guys are amazing. You've got the ideas and you don't need the fuddy-duddies like us. So I say, honestly, if you can get a group together, that would be the most amazing thing ever. And to the, no offence, fuddy-duddies here, something like Discord or something doesn't mean you need to meet up in a place like this. You can get together online and get people from different schools from across the area, and you can get a group together online, you can chat, you can have your meetings, you have your decisions, and then get a representative to put together, you know, your idea. But overall, I think it's really good.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Farina.
I just wanted to say it's refreshing and encouraging to see young people taking a keen interest in politics, local politics and local decision making. Youth and disability should never be a barrier to what you want to achieve or do in life. And expressing my voice has always been a passion of mine, because every voice does indeed matter. The youth need passionate and engaging role models like this. So I just want to say congratulations and all the best for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Farina. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully support this participation approach and use Charter to involve more participation of young people in decision making across the council, and also echo some of what Councillor Waller said about young people being interested in a variety of subjects, and any more engagement that we can have with you to listen to your voices. They're very good words in this participation charter, as Councillor Smith stated at the outset, but the key thing, and Lucy referred to, is that there are actions and follow through actions, and that's what I'd like to see, that there's been some ideas around this table of what actions might come out of this, but that's what we see. It's very, very pretty presentation with lots of good words, but actually what matters is what results from it. So we're prepared to listen, and hopefully there'll be some really, positive steps taken from it. One thing I would just like to just double check and question, really, probably from Councillor Waller as leader, there was a decision made by you as leader not to appoint a children's champion this year, which is in your gift, and I'm just wondering how this squares with what we've been talking about now and the participation of young people in the council. Thank you.
Councillor Powell. Councillor Waller, would you like to address that?
I think Councillor Smith touched on that when he mentioned the work that the council officers and Councillor Smith himself and the young people are doing in respect of children in care. We're looking at the way young people are involved in that process, and that includes asking them whether they want a member. as a champion. And if they come back and say, yes, we think that's the most important thing, not even the most important thing, we think that's important, then we will clearly reinstate it because it's taking action on what they said to us. But as Councillor Smith mentioned, not many young people were involved in the group that the Children's Champion sat on. So it's dealing with, that doesn't sound right. It's addressing that issue first, getting the young people themselves involved, and then asking them what they want. And I think Mrs. Godfrey will nod if I'm right. That is well in train, that process. Yes, it is. I thought it was. Thought I'd better double check. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waller. And I believe Councillor Smith is the lead member for children. Is that right, Councillor Smith? Yes. Yeah. Councillor Hemsley, you're indicating that you've already had one go, so I'm afraid you are not allowed to speak again on this.
I'm sure I can, Chair.
I don't
just
think
very briefly.
What? No, I don't think you can. I mean,
could I give someone else the message?
You can give it to someone else if you want.
Thank you. If you would pause for a moment.
Any Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make a point that since I've had my spinal injury, which was 2010, I've always tried to make sure whenever I come across organisations or people within organisations making decisions about disabled people, I've always tried to make the point that disabled people should be consulted or should make the decision. And it seems blindingly obvious, and it's exactly the same principle with young people, I believe, in that if you have adults, normal adults, let's say, making a decision about things they do not understand, you stand a very good chance of getting it wrong. And it's blindingly obvious to involve the people that you are making the decision about. So I'm absolutely in favour of this. And I would like to see it applied to the disabled adult population as well, personally.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Corby, you've thought of some.
Thank you, Chair. I've just had a last-minute thoughts process, Mr. Chair, if you'll allow me. I was just thinking if it may be a good idea to revisit the future Rutland conversation, which Councillor Hemsley here and the Chief Executive undertook 3 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corby. Any other members? In that case, Councillor Smith, it's your right of reply.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Lucy and Emily. It can't be easy having to talk to all 24 of us, I think it is, today. Quite daunting, but didn't they do well? Yeah. And I think they spoke better the recommendation than I did. Lucy spoke about experience of meeting MPs and then being inspired. I thought things would happen. Nothing happened. A letdown. Well, that's a lesson for us. And then her experience with the aquariums and how that inspired her. Emily said when listened to, it means a lot. She mentioned McDonald's, how they made changes. Well, if McDonald's can make changes, I'm sure we can. I'd like to thank all the councillors for their contributions because they've been very useful. They're harder to reach, children and young people. How we can perhaps think about wider dissemination of information to draw them in. The need to know more the disabilities and how to know them, how to know about them. The suggestions of different times. We actually do have the corporate parenting board at 5 o'clock to try and catch young people. But the idea of different places is, I think, a very good one. So I'd just like to thank all the councillors, particularly Lucy and Emily, once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So the motion is that Council approves the recommendations as set out in section 1.2 of the report. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The motion is therefore approved. At this juncture, I will adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes until 8:25 to, unless the young people want to continue and see the scintillating annual progress report and council productivity plan, then that will give them the opportunity to leave. So we're adjourning for 5 minutes. Report and propose a motion.
Thank you, Chairman. This report provides council and residents with a transparent annual progress report covering the period April 2023 to March 2024. The recommendation is that council notes the content of the annual report and the performance of the council over the last year. The annual progress report forms part of the council's strategic performance management framework, which is designed to improve the quality of our services by understanding progress in areas requiring action. Performance reporting supports the Council's commitment to being open and transparent in the delivery of its services by providing residents with detailed information on service delivery, performance and financial health. The annual performance report details how the Council is performing in relation to the corporate strategy and provides an opportunity to promote to residents the key successes and challenges over the last 12 months. This year's report has hopefully been made more approachable and easier to read. It is important to note that the report has been written to reflect the previous corporate strategy as defined by the previous administration in line with normal practice. The corporate strategy has since been refreshed by the new administration, and the revised priorities of the Council are fourfold: tackling the climate emergency, a diverse and sustainable local economy, support the most vulnerable, and provide good public services. The report highlights that overall the Council has made good progress against most of the strategic aims and commitments made to residents. Examples include the positive Ofsted inspection, significant investments in key infrastructure, including £2 million on new waste vehicles and £2.36 million invested in highways maintenance. This progress is reflected in a range of local and national performance metrics, with Rutland performing strongly across many areas, including roads, education, waste, health and crime. Although good progress has been made, there are some areas which have been a challenge. This includes, for example, the building of affordable homes, securing leisure services which are cost effective for the Council, staff turnover which has impacted key services such as adult social care, and a rise in the costs of buying services, including care placements. These challenges are recognised and have been reflected in the revision of the Council's strategic priorities for 2024. I would like to move the motion before Council.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. This report is for noting, so I don't think we need to have a motion per se. I mean, if anyone would like to second, they're quite welcome to, but it isn't. Councillor Waller has seconded. Now we're open to debate, members. That's Councillor Karen Payne.
Thank you, Chair. There are some great performances outlined in the performance report, and the Council should be justly proud of those which have been already mentioned, and a huge well done to all involved. However, there are many challenges also mentioned in the document that haven't been addressed. The covering report instructs these challenges are recognised and have been reflected in a revision of the Council's strategic priorities for 2024. Please note the word reflected is in past tense. I couldn't find anywhere specific answers to the questions the report generated. For example, why has the number of complaints risen above target, and why did nearly half of them progress to stage 2? This is not dealt with. Why was a statement made that we'd be implementing a model of devolved highway assets with parish councils to increase local accountability and influence? None of the parish councils I work with have been consulted about this and might be quite concerned about it. The flood response was highlighted as a challenge, and in response to strong feelings, residents have been continually told at the special council meeting the Section 19 review would answer their questions. Nothing was mentioned in the flooding challenge of the Section 19 review, which residents expect and are eagerly awaiting. Digital infrastructure. We will facilitate the coverage of superfast broadband. What is being done for the 30% plus residents who are exasperated by poor broadband connectivity? There's no mention of this. There are other examples that Councillor Johnson has already pulled out and acknowledged around big topics such as leisure and affordable housing. My point is, the public-facing document could have more robustly dealt with the challenges being faced because it raises questions it doesn't answer. I couldn't find the answers in the strategic priorities. I'm sure residents won't be able to either.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Chair. Could I also ask Councillor Johnson for some clarity in the report on page 57 regarding public health expenditure, where we are fourth bottom, it's reported as, and on page 82, the internal audit report, which comments that there's limited continuing healthcare funding. And it's really a question of clarity in the report on those two specific health-related issues. Thank you.
Councillor Ross, other members. Councillor McRobb.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to pick up on one of the comments that Councillor Johnson made in acknowledging areas where there is still progress to be made, where we have not done as well as we would like to have done. And the one I want to focus on is affordable housing. This is an off-the-top-of-my-head question, so I don't have background detail at hand, but I hope Councillor Beggy, as chair of the Planning Committee, will be able to confirm my memory that I believe I've heard twice, or perhaps more often than that, planning applications seeing a reduced allocation of affordable housing because the developer couldn't find an affordable housing provider to take on the units. That's clearly a problem that we need to solve. I don't have the answer to that, but I suspect that funding is key, and I'm wondering, where can we or some other responsible body find the funding that would be required to deliver affordable housing in places where existing providers don't want to take the risk because it's too few units, too remote a location, or for some other reason? It's something we have to solve, and I confess I don't have even an inkling of an answer. Thank you.
Councillor McRobb. As members here, Councillor West and Councillor Paul Brown.
I should have to be self-conscious now I know the camera's on me, Chairman. Councillor McRobb, the affordable housing thing, you're completely right. We have had a number of applications, and Nick will know. I was going to say the same thing. And I think we're between a rock and a hard place here because current policy is to sprinkle affordable housing through developments in order to avoid creating what I think is termed in the policy as ghettos, which is not a word I like, but that was, I think, what was in the policy. But as you said, that has resulted in a number of applications where the company servicing the affordable housing has said, well, actually, we can't simply service 2 here and another 2 here and 1 over there. It's just not worth our while, so they're not willing to do it. And part of the problem there is simply our scale as well. So I think, I don't know what the answer to that is, but maybe we do need to review that policy of how we place affordables within developments, because at the moment it's great to have that policy, but we're just not getting them delivered as we can see here. So I think some affordables in less desirable places is better than none at all, perhaps.
Thank you, Councillor West. The camera is no longer on you. It is now. Councillor Paul Brown.
Yes, I'd like to say about affordable homes, because that's in my area.
There's been a policy for 30% affordable homes through planning, and that is being followed through also into the new emerging plan. It also includes various other aspects of needy housing, especially those that are a degree of those that are adjusted for people with handicaps and special provisions. It is clear that there is a national problem with registered providers not all of a sudden deciding that they don't want to take on these units of less than 10 in an area. They don't want to have special housing, and they've also even gone along and said that they don't want to have houses that have not been that are with fossilized fuels, because they will have to pay for the reconstruction of them in 10 years' time in 10 years' time. So it is a real problem. We have only recently experienced this, and we have 2 sites where the developers have come forward and specifically offered alternatives. Both of those alternatives take away the basic option of what we want, which is 30% towards affordable housing. And quite frankly, I don't think this administration is going to accept those alternatives, simply because they come along, they know the rules, they knew what was happening in the first place, they knew they had to produce 30, and it is up to them to provide the registered providers. For this council to take on and become a registered provider would need a major change, major efforts at putting people in place to administer, start it off, find capital, and I just don't think we can do this in the short term. We've got a lot of properties coming forward, development on housing estates at the present time, that will add quite considerably to our number of affordable homes. And the reason why they haven't come forward and we're behind is simply because they're not finishing these housing estates off quick enough, and indeed at the present time not selling them quick enough. So we took steps to ensure that that even though they weren't selling quick enough, that they switched to alternatives, the alternative process of finishing off the affordable homes first, and a couple of builders have taken that up. So we have a real problem now with who is going to take on these registered providers. We're hoping to call a meeting locally of those that are operating within Rutland and see what we can do, see what their real problems are, see what they anticipate we can do to try and help. But basically, it is the builders whose responsibility is to find these people. They have built them. It is their obligation to do so, and I don't want to compromise on the objects of this council, which is to have 30% affordable homes within that area. And that's what we intend to continue to do.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say that the layout of the public report, I think, is good and useful and does clearly set out what's been achieved. A lot has been achieved by Rutland, of which we can be proud, but there are a number of challenges, not all of which are within our control. I would, like Councillor Payne, have liked to see a bit more about action to do something about those challenges, a lot of which ones that are marked red on the detail are to do, I've seen the explanations about, is staff turnover, recruitment and retention, and I'm hoping that that is an area that we're really working on. Just one thing to clarify, probably with Councillor Johnson, I guess. On page 70, we're talking about capital investment in Rutland Memorial Hospital. 1.2 million has been committed as part of match funding, the Levelling Up programme, specifically for investment in Rutland Memorial Hospital. Integrated Care Board are leading the development of a business case which has continued through 2023 and is due later in 2024. So a couple of questions just to confirm, is that now investment in the Meditech Centre at Oakham Enterprise Park rather than Rutland Memorial Hospital? And also, are we still on track to expect the business case later this year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. Other members, Councillor Smith, Councillor Payne, Councillor Beggy.
Yes, there's a lot in this report that is good. One thing that caught my eye was about breastfeeding. It mentions the prevalence at 6 to 8 weeks is 8% higher in the county than the national average. Probably the national percentage of breastfeeding is not that good, actually. And I was just reminded of this because I was at a Leicestershire, Leicester City and Rutland Safeguarding Board for Children, and they present at that meeting a very detailed response on children's deaths. And one of the very sad ones is SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome, and I have been involved in it in the past, and they're extremely distressing. And one thing that came out was most of them, the child is not breastfed. It's just one example of where improvements can be made to improve the health of the population. On a more positive note, I would just like to say, very pleased to see that 100% of our care leavers who are in contact with the council. I think that says a lot about our social services. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Ray Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I'm having what I'm going to refer to as a Councillor Corby moment, because something has occurred to me. I noticed under customer services that we received 74 complaints last year, but we also received 79 compliments. And as we all know, it takes much greater effort to make a compliment than it is to give a complaint. I don't know if I'm going to be inspired in future meetings, but you just have to wait and see, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. That was inspirational. Yes, Councillor Beggy and then Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. This is just a brief observation or comment, really. Just under staff satisfaction survey, do you think it would be better to try and arrange these before the year end so we can include that figure as opposed to it happening after the event without having information? That's my only observation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beggy. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm going to pose a conundrum. We are used to general conversations around the rate of our council tax, whether it provides value for money, so on and so forth. We've heard it all before. Discussions about highways have been going on for yonks, people moaning about potholes, etc., etc. I suppose the conundrum is, how do you get the positive messages out about our annual report to feed into that overall budget discussion, whilst saying actually we are acknowledging where there are challenges and where things need to be done differently, perhaps to use diplomatic words. But I do think it's a conundrum because we've got a lot of residents who do not believe that they get value for money from their council tax, and we know that from social media, we know that from chats wherever. That I will finish there, Chair, but it is, how do you marry those two up? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Any other members? Councillor Hemsley.
I'll make sure I don't have to get anyone else to ask a question for me.
Heaven forbid.
First off, really, is just sort of responding to the one on affordable homes and things. And we've known this has been a problem for a while, and it would be just great to just get ahead of the problem rather than trying to chase it down the road. And I would encourage those conversations and maybe looking at some councils where they have found solutions, maybe through the rural network or whatever, finding out how we can deliver in a different way, because we're chasing the wrong dream at the moment. Secondly, I'll just on 4, it says consultation, 4.1, and the last 5 words, through an extensive engagement exercise. What was that? It would be nice to know what we did to engage, because I know people are going, well, I haven't heard anything from the council. The only thing I get is my reminder that I haven't paid my council tax. That's not really extensive consultation. So if somebody could explain that to me, that'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hemsley. Any other members? Yes, Councillor Zollingerborg.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just slightly, well, my question is, and obviously that probably no one can answer that, but is the local plan, now that there is a new government with a very big house building plan, I wonder if there's going to be a risk that our local plan, which has been worked on for so many years and with so much changes, will have to be delayed again just because of that, that there will be new housing targets, or if that doesn't impact that.
Thank you, Councillor Zollington-Ball. Councillor Waller? Yep.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to respond to that. The newly elected government has made reference to the National Planning Policy Framework, which is the basic document that we all use to produce our local plan. Changing that will take a little while for any government, and once it has been changed, the implementation period is often delayed as well. So the updating that happened at the latter end of last calendar year are not going to, the intent from the last government was that they wouldn't actually come into play until June of next year. And so we, along with other authorities, and I have been in discussions through East Midlands councils on this topic with other authorities, are working on the assumption that if we stick to our original timetable, which is to submit post Regulation 19, so in other words, the last bit of consultation that we do, submit our local plan to the Planning Inspectorate at the beginning of next year, which was always our intent, that once it is made, once it's gone through its inspection process, that it will be our local plan until such time as things are changed. Now, I think it's unlikely that we won't have to make revisions within the 15-year lifespan of the local plan. In any case, we would be making revisions because circumstances change. You know, you suddenly discover that all your house building that you'd planned for 15 years all gets built in the first 10 years. So you need to do something about not having a land supply and so on. It's an iterative process, local plan making. But as confident as we can be, we are confident that our current timetable will provide us with a framework within which we can operate. But clearly, it would be remiss of us to not be watching what's happening at a national level and to not have some forward thinking. And whilst for various reasons of confidentiality and or the old adage, you know, many a slip twixt cup and lip, I wouldn't want to go into the detail of what we're thinking about at the moment, although the group leaders are aware of the opposition groups, but not really for making public at this stage because it's too soon and we wouldn't want to jinx any cunning plan that we might have. But it's a very valid question, and it is something that we are conscious of and is something that has concerned us. But as changes were coming ahead anyway through the previous government, it would have been an issue for us, and so we have been thinking about it and planning for some time, and the members of the local plan working group are very, very aware of that because we have been discussing it in that group. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Waller. Any other members? Councillor Edwards and Councillor Corby.
I just had a statement and then a question. I just wanted to say for the statement of everybody knows the whole breast is best, but I don't feel comfortable with making the statement that people who are already shamed, possibly, by not being able to breastfeed are being told that they are putting their children at a greater risk of sudden infant death syndrome. It just doesn't sit right to say that it's your fault. Anyway, but my question was, what is affordable for homes? Is it affordable for the landlords to buy and then rent on, or is it affordable for actual first-time buyers? And what do we class for that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Corby.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. One observation for me, actually, the leader talked about the local plan there. And I note about they are going to be doing a sustainability appraisal. My point really is an environmental one. I repeat, we're in a climate crisis. And for me, biodiversity and the environment, there really isn't much mitigation that can be offered, and I just hope that the council will continue with a sustainability appraisal that takes a zero tolerance to the destruction of anything at all that affects our biodiversity in a negative way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corby. Any other members? In that case, Councillor Johnson, this is your right of reply.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can. Yes, so this is a performance report, and it's always interesting, isn't it? Everybody wants to shoot the messenger. Whereas in reality, what I'm doing is actually saying I'm quite proud of this report. I think it's actually very good. The fact that we're honest about things we don't do well is really good. But it's ignoring the point that the items in here that we don't do well should inform portfolio holders and other councillors in terms of things we need to focus on. And those things we focus on are all about choice. We can't focus on everything. We simply haven't got the pounds to do it. And so I think, you know, what this report needs to be to everybody in this room is it needs to reflect the fact that we have a transparent, honest report that talks about the things we do well and talks about the things we don't do well. And if councillors wish to put more emphasis on something, they should say so. I haven't got an issue with you doing that. And if the portfolio holder wants to look at the data, as they should do, and understand what in their area needs improvement, then that's the positive that comes out of it. It's no different to internal audit in reality. So this is a self-audit. That's what this is. You know, for good or ill. And I happen to think it's written well. It presents good and bad. There's a lot of good things in there. But as always, people tend to focus on the bad. But what I would say about the report is that we should endorse it because it is well written and it's well presented and it does purport to try and represent a balanced view. And I think that's really important. You know, it's ever so easy to promote everything and suppress everything that's negative, or on the other hand, rise everything else up that's negative and suppress the positive. And what you need is a balance. So I would hope that this report informs councillors and portfolio holders in the year to come and allows them to understand the things we do well and things we don't do so well. It also allows them to exercise choices as to where the money goes, frankly, because we can't do everything. And we need to reflect on the fact that our budget as a council is effectively shrinking every year. So we need to make sure we recognise what the priorities are and focus on those things that we wish to make a priority. The other point I should probably cover is that there were a lot of questions on affordable housing, and that those policies, those answers can often be found on the government.uk website. So gov.uk is the place to look for those things because they're national policies. And we are bound by national policy, and that's where we've been hitting our head against a brick wall in some places because it's quite difficult. So I would commend this report to you. I think it's extremely good. I think councillors, portfolio holders, officers will all take note of it, and I think therefore it is fit for purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. So the Council notes the recommendations as set out in section 1.2 of report number 70/2024. Item 17, Council Productivity Plan 2024. This is report number 71/2024. And Councillor Johnson, can you please introduce the report and propose a motion?
This report provides Council with a productivity plan which was requested by DLUC and will be submitted to the newly council endorses the productivity plan, which will be submitted to the newly named department for housing, communities and local government. On the 16th of April 2024, the Minister for Local Government, at the time Simon Hoare, wrote to all council chief executives requesting that productivity plans be submitted by the 19th of July. The letter is in the pack. Productivity plans are a requirement of the local government financial settlement and form part of a government review into productivity within the public sector, including local authorities. The previous government intended to review the plans to identify common themes and issues across the sector and to highlight best practice that others can learn from. We have no reason to think the new government will not require the information. The letter outlines 4 themes which councils are asked to consider in their plans, and they are: 1. How have you transformed the way you design and deliver services to make better use of resources? 2. How you plan to take advantage of technology and make better use of data to improve decision making, service design and use of resources. 3. Your plans to reduce waste or spend within your organisation and systems. And 4. The barriers preventing progress that the government can help to reduce or remove. Plans must be submitted by the 19th of July. There must be member oversight and endorsement of the plan before it is submitted, and the plan must also
Councillor Johnson, I don't think your microphone's on.
I apologise.
Carry on.
We're okay, Chairman.
Are we? Okay.
Don't ask me to start again. Appendix B in the pack is the proposed productivity plan, which will be submitted. We believe the plan addresses each of the 4 themes as requested, providing examples of previous, current and planned activity. The contents naturally have been compiled in discussions with the corporate leadership team. I was going to say that I move the motion before council, but you made the point before that it may not be a motion.
So we do need to vote on this one,
okay,
Councillor Johnson.
because it's an endorsement.
Yeah.
Okay, so I therefore move the motion.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Waller. Okay, we're now open to debate. Members. Councillor Ross, Councillor McRobb.
Councillor Johnson will be pleased to hear that I commend the report for its brevity, and it is a document that speaks truth unto power, and I particularly point members to pages 121 and 124. I think it's right that we highlight the issues to central government that local authorities are faced with. Thank you.
Councillor Robb. Councillor McRobb.
Just an observation, which I'm sure the portfolio holder is already aware of, but to highlight it for more general appreciation, he will have noted the recent report on pilot schemes on 4-day working in local authorities in certain parts of the country, which found that productivity was enhanced among a number of other benefits. I leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor McRobb. Other members? Councillor Hemsley.
Thank you very much. Interestingly, 4-day week is actually being trialled by a council that is chaired by my cousin. Anyway, that aside, I just look at this and I think, what a waste of time. It's a brilliant report and it's great that we've done all these things, but they're not going to do anything with it. Is it not just the time we went, you know what, take it and put it somewhere safe? We're not filling it in, but I understand we have to.
Thank you, Councillor Hemsley. Nice to hear about your family's wider issues. Any other members? In which case, that's your right to reply, Councillor Johnson.
I'd just like to say thank you for the comments. I agree it is important that the council is honest and takes advantage of opportunities to talk back to government, even if they're not listened or they've made the attempt. I take the point about the requirement for the report and whether or not it's required, but it is required. We've been told it's required, so we just need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. So the motion is that Council approves the recommendations set out in section 1.2 of report number 71, 2024. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
I believe that's unanimous, Chair. Oh, sorry, Chairman.
It isn't.
23.
Was Councillor Hemsley, are you...
Sorry, that was 23, Chairman.
Right.
20,
What? I'm still...
unanimous,
There,
Chairman.
Right. So that motion is approved. Item 18, any urgent business and date of next meeting. I've not been made aware of any other urgent business for consideration, and the next council meeting is on Thursday, the 26th of September, where you will be in the capable hands of Councillor Harvey. Therefore, the meeting is complete and closed at 9:01.